Chapter 81. Do you look down on me? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 81. Do you look down on me? Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Su Qianxuan stared at the neatly dressed man before her. Not a single crease was on his shirt. She then looked at herself. Her clothes were disheveled and undone. He had torn her blouse open in a fit of passion, revealing the bra beneath the garment. Su Qianxuan bit her lower lip in embarrassment. She covered the part of her blouse that was torn with her hand and endured the pain between her legs as she turned around in a daze and left the study. When Su Qianxuan walked past Zi Fan, she could sense Zi Fan's disdain towards her even though there was no expression on the woman's face at all. Su Qianxuan wanted to grab some clothes from the walk-in closet before she headed to the bathroom. However, her legs went limp, and she nearly fell when she turned around the corner. A pair of large hands caught her just in time. Yi Gu gazed at the pale and delicate young woman in front of him. His heart was aching. He suppressed the anger within him and helped her to get back on her feet. Su Qianxuan stared at him and started to laugh all of a sudden. She lowered her head, and there was a hint of sorrow in her voice. Yi Gu, do you look down on me? What am I to that man? He could just bully me in front of anyone he pleases without regard for my dignity at all. Even though I'm just a tool, I still want to maintain my dignity. Why is he humiliating me again and again? No, Yi Gu answered in a very serious manner. Su Qianxuan raised her head and looked at Yi Gu in a daze. When she realized that she had lost her composure, she quickly lowered her head, sidestepped him, and walked away. Yi Gu clenched his fists tightly. Just as he was about to leave, an incredibly soft voice rang out from behind. Thank you, Yi Gu. She was grateful to him, even though he merely said that to console her. Yi Gu's body stiffened. By the time he turned around, Su Qianxuan had already entered the walk-in closet. He felt as though a hand was ruthlessly clutching his heart, and he could barely catch his breath. I didn't do anything at all, but she kept thanking me. How could the young master bring himself to hurt such an innocent girl? Su Qianxuan chose a long dress that could cover her up completely. She accidentally glanced at the walk-in closet opposite hers on her way out and noticed that there were some clothes that were meant for girls who were around 7 or 8 years old. She found it strange. Su Qianxuan put on the long, white dress after she showered. The dress had a high collar and long sleeves, it reached just above her ankles, revealing her exquisite, lovely anklet. Frankly, Su Qianxuan regretted choosing that dress. It was too conspicuous on her, but there were not many clothes in the closet that could cover her up from head to toe. That dress was already considered plain when compared with the rest. When Su Qianxuan walked out of the bathroom, Aunt Qi was waiting for her in the room. Even though Aunt Qi had gotten used to the sight of Su Qianxuan's beauty, she still froze the moment she saw the gorgeous young woman. Su Qianxuan looked as though she had just walked out of a painting. A little embarrassed, Su Qianxuan tucked her long hair behind her ear. She greeted the woman in her room in a soft voice, Aunt Qi. Oh my, young Mistress Su, you look as though you just walked out of a painting. My goodness, how could there possibly be such a beautiful person? No wonder the young master likes you so much. Aunt Qi clapped her hands. A beautiful appearance won't take you far in life. It's more important to have a good personality, don't you agree? Su Qianxuan smiled coyly. Both are necessary. Oh, before I forget, I've come to inform you that the young master has instructed the driver to take you to the hospital. Aunt Qi was nearly bedazzled by the beauty of the young woman before her. Really? I can finally go to the hospital. Su Qianxuan was surprised, but this pleasant feeling was soon followed by bitterness and sorrow. She tried hard not to think about the things that upset her. Su Qianxuan could not wait to leave for the hospital. Therefore, when she rushed towards the front door in a hurried manner, she bumped into Long Siju, who was also on his way out. Chapter 82. Are you heading out as well? You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 82. Are you heading out as well? Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Su Qianxuan quickly stopped walking. She felt everyone's gaze on her and lowered her head slightly in dejection. She should have listened to Aunt Qi and took her time. Long Siju gazed at the young woman in front of her. The long, white dress made her look even more delicate and innocent. Her waist was so slim that it was as if he could wrap it around his palm. She had just run all the way there. Her small face was tinged with a rosy pink, resembling a peach. Her facial features were flawlessly exquisite. Her small lips parted slightly as she gasped for air. Her glossy, wavy black hair was messily spread out, accentuating her smooth, fair skin. She looked indescribably seductive. Long Siju furrowed his eyebrows a little, while Zi Fan said expressionlessly, "Young master, we should get going now." "Come over here," Long Siju ordered as he stared at the young woman. Su Qianxuan really hoped that she could turn back time. If she could do so, she definitely would have walked to the front door slowly so that she would not bump into him. However, it was impossible to turn back time. She could only accept her fate and walk towards the man. Su Qianxuan stopped in front of Long Siju and called out to him quietly, "Young master, are you heading out as well?" Her voice was truly melodious. It was soft and sweet, yet tantalizing at the same time. Every time he ket her and listened to her as she begged for mercy, he would become more excited and aggressive. "Get into the car." Long Siju was worried that he would lose control again and ket her then and there. What a seductive little fairy. "Young master, I'm going to the hose." Under Long Siju's overbearing gaze, Su Qianxuan swallowed the rest of her sentence. She loosened her clenched fist and got into the car in resignation. As she closed the car door, Su Qianxuan felt rather despaired. Is he going to stop me from visiting my younger brother? "Young master. We'll take you to the hospital." "It's on our way," Long Siju said flatly. He lit himself a cigarette and started to smoke in an unhurried manner. When Su Qianxuan heard what he said, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. This time, Long Siju did not give her a hard time. Su Qianxuan sat beside him in complete silence. She was just hoping that they would arrive at the hospital as soon as possible. When the car stopped outside the hospital, Yi Gu opened the car door for her. Su Qianxuan turned and said softly to Long Siju, "Thank you, young master." Just as she was about to exit the car, Long Siju grasped her wrist. Su Qianxuan turned to look at him. There was a hint of confusion in her black, crystal-like eyes. "Don't you think that you have forgotten something?" Long Siju fixed his gaze on her. Su Qianxuan did not speak. When the young woman heard his words, her clear, black eyes, which resembled those of a fawn's, glinted with a hint of anxiety and panic. She stared at him with a dumbfounded expression. She did not understand what he was implying at all. "What did I forget? I have thanked him just now, haven't I?" As time ticked away, Su Qianxuan grew more and more anxious under his gaze. She stuttered as she asked, Young master, can you tell me what I have forgotten to do?" Long Siju studied her extremely anxious expression and gradually tightened his grip on her wrist. Then suddenly, he flung her hand away in annoyance. The man was strong. Su Qianxuan's hand swung back and struck the car door. She felt a sharp pang of pain, and she quickly withdrew her hand and placed it behind her back. "Get out. Drive." Long Siju instructed her and the driver with a slightly cold expression. Su Qianxuan quickly got out of the car. Yi Gu closed the car door and returned to the front passenger seat. The car drove off, and Su Qianxuan furrowed her eyebrows as she stared after the vehicle. She beat her brains out, wondering what she had forgotten to do. Long Siju stared at the young woman who was standing still with a blank and confused expression. He took a long, deep puff of his cigarette. He thought that he may have gone insane, for he was actually anticipating that she would give him a goodbye kiss when they parted. Chapter 83. I'm not afraid of you because I have nothing to lose. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 83. I'm not afraid of you because I have nothing to lose. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, Su Qinshuan, you've indeed become someone's sugar baby. A voice rang out from behind, and Su Qinshuan snapped out of her reverie. She turned and saw Qiao Yiren getting off a limousine and walking towards her. Su Qinshuan did not bother to acknowledge Qiao Yiren. Instead, she turned and walked away. She did not want to waste her time on someone like Qiao Yiren and would rather spend more time with Jie. However, why would Qiao Yiren let her go just like that? She was almost driven mad by jealousy when she saw how beautiful and fairy-like Su Qinshuan looked right now. She quickly walked towards Su Qinshuan, and said in an extremely joyous tone, "The high and mighty lady of the Su family who used to be a classy little princess has now resorted to being someone's mistress, and is getting f***ked by some fat old man every night. How does it feel?" Qiao Yiren had always wanted to see the little princess, who was adored by every member of the Su family, being trampled into the mud and becoming the filthiest, vilest being to ever exist. Only then could she feel a little better. Classy much. Humph. This SL*T has already been f***ked countless time by some random, dirty man. When Qiao Yiren noticed that Su Qinshuan was ignoring her, she became extremely furious. She's now a mere low-life with no money and status. How dare she still put on airs and graces in front of me? Is she even qualified to do that? Right now, I'm the princess, the adored daughter of the Qiao family. I'm a true lady in everyone's eye, and a rising movie star. I'm envied and worshipped everywhere I go. Everything that used to belong to this little SL*T has become mine now. Su Qinshuan, does it feel disgusting to touch a fat old man? But a slut like you should rightfully be with that sort of fat and disgusting man. I really wish I could show that comatose old thing and Su Machan how filthy and slutty their precious little princess has grown up to be. You must be moaning so sensuously every time you lay beneath that man. There was a loud smack. Su Qinshuan had turned around and slapped Qiao Yiren across the face. If the Qiao family's servants had not caught Qiao Yiren just in time, she would have spun around a few times from the sheer force of Su Qinshuan's slap and tumbled onto the ground. Qiao Yiren was dumbfounded by the slap. She never thought that Su Qinshuan, who was now a penniless nobody, would still have the guts to attack her. Su Qinshuan delivered the slap with all her might. She had wanted to hit Qiao Yiren for a long time, not only for what she did to her, but also for all the sufferings that Jie had to go through because of her. Qiao Yiren's small, fair face became visibly swollen in no time, and it soon looked like a steamed bun. The Qiao family's servants were rather astonished as well. Qiao Yiren wanted to scream and pounce on Su Qinshuan right away, but Su Qinshuan placed a finger on her own lips and shushed Qiao Yiren softly. Qiao Yiren, who won the Best Actress award, you have an image to maintain. You, Qiao Yiren, are a public figure while I, Su Qinshuan, am only an ordinary person. Haven't you heard about how people who have nothing to lose are not afraid of those who have a lot of things at sake? If you want to become even more famous, I don't mind helping you out. Su Qinshuan's voice was very soft, and there was a bright smile on her small, exquisite face. Together with her long, natural and wavy hair, she gave off an air of nonchalance, which made her appear hauntingly enticing yet incredibly elegant. Qiao Yiren, on the other hand, cut a hilarious figure with her swollen, reddened cheek. Together with the vicious grimace on her face, she looked so terrifying that she could have frightened a child into tears. Qiao Yiren was so infuriated that she was about to hit the ceiling. Su Qinshuan suddenly took a step forward, giving Qiao Yiren such a shock that she stumbled backward. When Xiao Yiren recovered from the shock, she was so embarrassed and vexed that her face almost turned purple. You slut! Chapter 84. Don't burden yourself with too many responsibilities. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 84. Don't burden yourself with too many responsibilities. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Xiao Yiren, no matter how beautiful you look, your appearance can't mask that hideous and nasty heart of yours. Every single terrible thing you've done is engraved on your face. And you look absolutely gruesome. After Su Qianxuan was done speaking, she turned and stormed off coolly because she no longer wished to waste more time on Xiao Yiren. Xiao Yiren stared at Su Qianxuan's graceful figure as she left. Even though the latter had fallen from grace, she was still as gorgeous as a goddess. Xiao Yiren felt her chest ache with envy, so much so that she was nearly driven mad. She knew that if she did not get rid of Su Qianxuan, that little slut would be a threat to her sooner or later. Xiao Yiren was so jealous that she felt an immense ache in her chest. She could not help but start coughing. When a Qiao family servant saw that, he said nervously, "Young mistress, I'll give young master Chushi a call so that he'll come and teach that little SL*T a lesson." Smack! Xiao Yiren slapped the servant across the face. The servant quickly covered his smacked cheek. He lowered his head and did not dare to speak anymore. What's your intention of calling him over right now? Do you want him to see how shameless that little SL*T is and be seduced by her again? I'm sorry, I was wrong. The servant was so frightened that he quickly apologized. The commotion they made had already drawn quite some attention. Xiao Yiren quickly pulled down her cap and said indignantly, "What are you waiting for? Get me out of here. Haven't we embarrassed ourselves enough?" The servant immediately went over to help her as they walked forward. Xiao Yiren fixed her gaze on the figure that was entering the elevator. She swore to destroy Su Qianxuan's reputation and make sure that the latter would be ravaged by the filthiest men. She would be left on the streets, where stray dogs would then feed on her remains. Su Qianxuan was in a good mood. She walked toward Su Jiye's ward at a relaxed pace, and from afar, she saw Mu Bai waiting for her by the door. When Mu Bai spotted her, he smiled and lifted the crispy roasted duck in his hand. "I've gotten it for you." Su Qianxuan jogged towards him and took the duck from him. The smile on her face was incredibly innocent. "Thank you so much, Dr. Mu. It's rather inconvenient for me to pick this up on my way here. I'll pay you back during my next visit." "You don't have to pay me back. A roasted duck doesn't cost much. I can still afford to foot the bill. It's not about money. If I want you to treat me to a meal, I won't hesitate to ask you. But you're only buying this on my behalf, so I have to pay you back," Su Qianxuan insisted. Mu Bai could not change her mind. This young woman always stuck to her principles. He seriously wondered what kind of person could change that about her. "How are you? Is everything all right with your health?" Mu Bai gazed at the young woman before him with concern when he recalled that she asked for some painkillers from him during her previous visit. I'm fine." Su Qianxuan subconsciously wanted to make sure that no one knew about what she was going through. "What am I going to do with you? Don't burden yourself with too many responsibilities. You can ask for my help whenever you need it." Mu Bai lifted his hand and ruffled her hair. "I know. I already did." Su Qianxuan lifted the crispy roasted duck in her hand with a playful grin on her face. Mu Bai smiled in resignation. "Why don't you go in? Jiye's been waiting for you." When Su Jiye heard someone opening the door, he clutched his blanket tightly. He could tell that Su Qianxuan was there just by the sound of her footsteps. "Jiye, it's me, your older sister. Look, I've brought you something tasty today." Su Qianxuan entered the ward, pretending that everything was fine. When she recalled how cruel she was towards her younger brother during her previous visit, she felt extremely regretful and remorseful. Su Jie suddenly turned and lay down on the bed, facing away from her. When Su Qianxuan saw his reaction, her eyes reddened. She suppressed the sadness within her and walked over. She gazed at him as she said softly, "Jie, I'm sorry. What I did during my last visit was my fault. Can you forgive me?" Chapter 85. He seemed very angry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 85. He seemed very angry. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Su Jie lay still on the bed, curling up like a fetus who was still in his mother's womb. Su Qianxuan walked towards the bed and extended her hand. She gently caressed her younger brother's soft hair. She continued to apologize, "I know that I was wrong. You were very obedient and didn't do anything wrong. It was my fault. I shouldn't have talked to you that way. I'm taking back those harsh words I said the last time. I'll come to visit you very often and won't be angry at you ever again." When Su Qianxuan saw how her younger brother remained in a fetal position, her heart ached terribly. Dr. Mu had mentioned that the posture reflected extreme insecurity. Due to the intensive treatment Su Jie received in the past few years, there was obvious improvements to his condition, and he had not adopted the posture for a long time. "Jie, I've promised to visit you once every week, right? I promise to try my best to visit you twice a week after this. What do you say?" Su Qianxuan felt extremely bad for her younger brother, and was willing to make even bigger sacrifices for him. Worse came to worst, she would just initiate Zul intercourse with that devil and let him torture her. It was no big deal for her. "I'll love you forever." Su Qianxuan bent down, put her arms around him gently, and caressed his face with her small hands. When Mu Bai saw how close and inseparable the siblings were, he felt extremely bad for them. He noticed that the back of Su Qianxuan's hand was red and asked, "Qianxuan, what happened to your hand? Are you injured?" Su Qianxuan did not move. Instead, she maintained her posture and kept her arms around her younger brother, because she knew that a hug was what he needed the most. "It's no big deal. I accidentally bumped my hand into the car door." Su Qianxuan. Mu Bai suddenly raised his voice and shouted at her. It startled Su Qianxuan. She had known him for 2 years, and Mu Bai always gave her the impression of a gentle protector, like an older brother. He had never raised his voice at her. Su Qianxuan let go of Su Jie. She blinked and stared at Mu Bai. Mu Bai's expression was slightly grim. He pulled her hand over and took a look at it. "It's already swollen. Would it have swollen up like this if it was simply a careless bump? Dr. Mu. Why must you always be like this, keeping everything to yourself? You didn't even tell me that you were injured. You make people terribly worried, do you know that?" Mu Bai then realized that he had lost his composure. "Sorry, I will go and get you some medicine." Mu Bai left the ward and stood by the door. He lifted his hand and rubbed his forehead. "What's going on with me?" He had always prided himself on his self-restraint. However, the moment he saw that the young woman was injured, he lost his composure. Su Qianxuan looked at her hand. The bulge on her wrist had enlarged. Earlier on, she bumped it against the car door when Long Siju shoved her hand away. After that, she slapped Xiaoyiren across the face with that same hand. The bulge now appeared rather frightening indeed. But what's up with Dr. Mu? He seems very angry. Have I done something wrong? Because Su Qianxuan was staring at her wrist, she did not notice that Si Jie, who was lying on the bed beside her and facing away, had balled up his large hands into fists. His entire body was extremely stiff. Mu Bai returned to the ward shortly after with several different types of medication. He walked to the bed, pulled Su Qianxuan's hand over, and examined it. He was worried that it was a bone injury, so he asked her to move her wrist around. Once he was certain that her bone was fine, he took out a medicinal spray and was about to apply it on her. However, Mu Bai's hand suddenly froze mid-air. Su Qianxuan was still waiting for her treatment, and she raised her head to look at him when she saw that he had stopped moving. Mu Bai turned to look at the young man, who was lying motionless on the bed, and said, "Jia, do you want to apply the medicinal spray on your older sister's hand? She's injured. If you do that for her, her injury will recover much sooner, or else she'll continue to be in a lot of pain." Chapter 86. I won't let anything bad happen to myself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 86. I won't let anything bad happen to myself. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Su Qianxuan quickly looked at her younger brother as well. She recalled that when they were at the Qiao family's mansion, her younger brother had responded appropriately to his surroundings. She still believed that her younger brother's condition had improved. "Jia, can you help to apply this medicinal spray on me? My hand is in so much pain without it," Su Qianxuan said probingly. When she saw that her younger brother was still unresponsive, she looked anxiously at Mu Bai, who was standing next to her. Mu Bai walked over to the bed right away and patted the young man's shoulder. He then sat him up. Su Jie was rather cooperative, but he still kept his head down and refused to make eye contact with Su Qianxuan. Mu Bai took his hand and shoved the medicinal spray into his hand. He then held Su Jie's hand as they applied the spray on Su Qianxuan's wound. "Wow, it's not painful anymore. Thank you, Jie." Su Qianxuan reached out to embrace the young man before her. "Yeah, Jie is amazing. You already know how to tend to your older sister's wound," Mu Bai encouraged Su Jie as well. "Jie, I've brought you the tastiest crispy roasted duck. Quick, give it a try. I'll tell you some stories after you're done eating. I can tell you quite a few stories today." "What are you talking about? How can my baby possibly have birth defects?" Xiao Yiren glared angrily at the female doctor who was sitting opposite her. "I'm really sorry. We couldn't tell before this because the baby was too tiny. But I'm very certain this time that your pregnancy has to be terminated," the doctor advised her patiently. "Why is this happening?" Xiao Yiren tried her best to calm herself down. Being pregnant is not an easy task to begin with. Pregnant women have to be careful and alert at all times. "Miss Qiao, you." The doctor stared at Xiao Yiren, who was wearing thick makeup and high heels. She wanted to say something, but swallowed back her words. "Enough, I got it. You mustn't disclose this information to anyone, do you understand?" Xiao Yiren did not want to listen to anything the doctor had to say anymore. She caressed her lower abdomen gently with her hand. "Since the baby will be aborted soon, of course I have to use it to my advantage while I can. How dare Su Qianxuan, that little SL*T, slap me. During our last encounter, Xia Chushi even left me aside and dragged that little SL*T with him as he stormed off. This time, I must make sure that Xia Chushi hates that little SL*T to the bones." Before Su Qianxuan left the hospital, she asked Mu Bai to get her another box of painkillers. "Qianxuan, can you be honest with me? Why do you need so many painkillers? You should go to the doctor if you're ill. You can't just rely on these pills." Mu Bai furrowed his eyebrows as he stared at the young woman before him. "It's nothing, I'm not sick. I still have to take care of Jia, so I certainly won't let anything bad happen to myself. It's just that lately, my workload has increased drastically. I'm keeping these pills in case I need them." Su Qianxuan knew that her facial expression must have looked awfully stiff, because she was extremely terrible at lying. "What's your current job?" "If you're in need of money, Dr. Mu, thank you for your kindness. I'll head back first. I am entrusting Jia to you for the time being." Su Qianxuan flashed a polite smile, turned, and left. Mu Bai gazed at her back. He wanted to say something, but eventually swallowed his words. He merely continued to stare after her as she walked away. Before Su Qianxuan left the hospital, she took the pills out from the blister pack and put them all into a little white bottle that she had taken from the ward earlier. When she walked out of the hospital, it was already nighttime. She saw Long Siju's car parked outside the hospital, and her heart started to pound. She did not expect Long Siju to come and fetch her at all. Yi Gu saw her and immediately opened the car door. Su Qianxuan quickly hid the bottle of bills behind her back as she tightened her grip on it. She then walked towards the car. Su Qianxuan got into the car and was about to find a spot to sit down when Long Siju, who was resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. He extended his hand and pulled her into his arms. He then lowered his head and kissed her petite lips, which he had been thinking about the entire day. Chapter 87. He felt slightly agitated. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 87. He felt slightly agitated. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Long Siju finally released Su Qianxuan when she was nearly out of breath, and he tore her clothes into shreds in an aggressive manner. He did not even give her time to catch her breath. Instead, he penetrated her impatiently. Su Qianxuan was pressed underneath him against the cushion. She grasped at the cushion tightly, so much so that her fingernails cracked and splintered. The bottle of pills slipped out of her hand and fell onto the floor next to the couch. Yi Gu, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, heard the sounds that rang out from the back. He was holding a handkerchief and wiping the dagger in his hand expressionlessly. His movements became more and more quick and vigorous, so much so that he did not even realize that he had cut his fingers. When they were done, Su Qianxuan breathed a loud sigh of relief. There was no more energy left in her. Long Siju lifted her petite body and held her in his arms. She leaned against his chest in silence and panted. There were tears on her long eyelashes, which made her look extremely pitiable. Long Siju lit a cigarette out of habit. After the session of satisfying S*X with her, the agitation within him faded slightly at last. Next time, you're only allowed to stay in the hospital for 1 hour. Long Siju ordered in a cold, steely voice. Su Qianxuan's breath froze abruptly. 1 hour's too short. It's not enough. Young master, I only get to see my younger brother once a week. Su Qianxuan panicked a little. She had just promised Jie that she would try to visit him twice a week. Do you have a problem with that? Long Siju lowered his head and peered at her. He waited outside the hospital for 4 hours today. Su Qianxuan really wanted to push him away with all her might and tell him that she certainly had a problem with his arrangement. But no, she was afraid that he would cancel her weekly visits if she said otherwise. Long Siju gazed at the doleful expression on the little thing's face and felt slightly agitated again. He took a cell phone from the seat beside him and shoved it into her small hand. Su Qianxuan looked at the silver phone that had a large screen and toyed with it. An image of the lily of the valley was carved onto the back of the phone. Is this for me? Su Qianxuan raised her head and glanced at the man who was holding her in his arms. Long Siju responded coldly. By the way, young master, regarding the matter of giving birth to a child, I don't really know how it works. Should we consult a doctor? Su Qianxuan really no longer wanted to be tormented by him whenever and wherever he pleased. What do you mean by that? Long Siju's tone turned sour. Do you dislike having S*X with me that much? He was being so straightforward that Su Qianxuan's breathing froze abruptly. She shook her head and denied almost immediately. No, Long Siju did not speak. He turned around, ready to extinguish his cigarette. Su Qianxuan was so startled that her phone slipped out of her hand. The bottle of pills was next to the couch. She would be in big trouble if he saw them. Almost out of reflex, Su Qianxuan reached out and cupped the man's face, taking the initiative to kiss him on the lips. When she realized what she had done, she seriously thought that she had gone insane. But she must not let Long Siju see that bottle of pills no matter what. Long Siju never thought that the little thing would suddenly initiate a kiss. He merely froze for a moment before he kissed her back immediately. This time, Long Siju ked her even more aggressively, because it was the first time the young woman was being so proactive. Su Qianxuan felt as if she was going to die. When Su Qianxuan woke up, she was already in bed in her bedroom back in the Jin garden. As she recalled the incident in the car earlier and the bottle full of painkillers, she was so scared that she broke out in a cold sweat. If Long Siju really discovers that bottle of pills, I can't imagine how he'll punish me. Young Mistress Su, you're awake. Aunt Chi was looking after her in her room. Aunt Chi, where's the young master? Su Qianxuan quickly asked. Chapter 88. To fetch something very important. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 88. To fetch something very important. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The young master went on a business trip, Aunt Chi answered. What about the young master's car? Where is his car? Su Qianxuan thought that she was definitely done for this time. Long Siju had certainly found out about the bottle of pills and decided to imprison her again. I'm not so sure about that. Yi Gu told me to hand this shopping bag to you. He asked me to give it to you once you're awake. Su Qianxuan took the shopping bag from Aunt Chi, opened it, and took a look at its content. When she saw that it contained the bottle of pills that she had dropped in the car, she tightened her grip on it. She heaved a loud sigh of relief. Thank goodness Yi Gu retrieved it for me. If Long Siju finds it, I'll definitely be in big trouble. For the next few days, Su Qianxuan had a relaxing time. Now that she had a cell phone, she could finally contact the outside world. The first thing she did was to call Gu Mian. However, even after a few attempts, Gu Mian's number was still unreachable. Because Su Qianxuan was really concerned about Gu Mian's situation, she contacted the Gu family. The Gu family told her that Gu Mian had gone abroad again. They also told her not to contact Gu Mian for the time being. Su Qianxuan felt that something was not quite right. Even if Gu Mian's abroad, I should still be able to reach her on her phone, right? However, considering her own predicament, it was pointless to fret about another person. She was not even allowed to leave Jin Garden. Now, she was just thrilled about the fact that she was able to call her younger brother every day. Even though Su Jie still did not say a word, it was enough for her to know that her younger brother was able to hear her speak. Su Qianxuan was really shocked and she received a call from Qiao Bonian. No one else other than Dr. Mu had her phone number. How did he get my number? Anything. Su Qianxuan's tone was very cold. You may not care about your reputation, but I do. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Qiao Bonian questioned coldly. Xiao Yiren must have accidentally revealed something when she was whining and crying pitifully in front of the members of the Qiao family. Your surname is Qiao and mine is Su. My embarrassing deeds have nothing to do with you. Su Qianxuan's tone was even colder than that of Qiao Bonian's. No matter what your surname is, you're still my daughter. What exactly do you want from me? Su Qianxuan did not want to waste her time talking to him. Yiren and Chushi's engagement ceremony will be held this weekend. You have to be there. What if I say no? Su Qianxuan flashed a mirthless smile. Don't you forget that your mother is still with us. Qiao Bonian, aren't you afraid that karma will strike you one day? Su Qianxuan tightened her grip on her cell phone. She could not believe that Qiao Bonian was using her mother to threaten her. How could he say such a thing about his wife, who gave birth to 3 children for him? How disrespectful. From now onwards, your mother's fate is in your hands. Qiao Bonian said shamelessly. I'll be there then. Do not embarrass me again. Xiao Bonian said and hung up immediately after. Su Qinshuan slowly put down the phone. She agreed to attend Xiao Yiren and Xia Chushi's engagement ceremony not only because of Xiao Bonian's threat, but also because she wanted to go back to the Qiao family's mansion to fetch something very important. Her grandfather once told her that she must get her hands on that item if something bad were to happen to the Su family one day. Su Qinshuan did not know what it was. It had been 2 years since she left the house. Even though she had gone back to the house on 2 separate occasions, she did not have the chance to enter her grandfather's study room. Now, she finally had the opportunity to do so, but the occasion happened to be her fiancé and Xiao Yiren's engagement ceremony. How ironic. The weekend arrived in a blink of an eye. It was also the day that Su Qinshuan was supposed to visit Su Jie. Aunt Qi had told her that Long Siju allowed her to go to the hospital. Since Xiao Bonian did not want her to embarrass him in front of his guests, of course she had to dress up and groom herself for the occasion. Su Qinshuan wore a long black dress. She even pinned a white brooch which was shaped like a flower on her chest. When Aunt Qi saw her, she thought that the young woman was going to attend a funeral. Chapter 89. Her own image was what she cared about the most. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 89. Her own image was what she cared about the most. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Su Qinshuan went to the hospital first. She stayed with Su Jie for half an hour and borrowed some money from Mu Bai. After that, she left through the back entrance and took a cab to the Qiao family's mansion. Su Qinshuan's arrival drew everyone's attention. After all, she used to be the lady of the Su family. Everyone recognized the precious little princess of the Su family. It had only been 2 years since they last saw her, but the change in Su Qinshuan's appearance astounded everyone. Even though Su Qinshuan was not considered ugly back then, she did not used to be as breathtakingly stunning as she was now. Everyone could not take their eyes off her. Dressed in a long black dress, the young woman strode across the carpeted floor. With her exquisite face, lively demeanor, eyes that glowed like stars, and serene expression, there was a dignified air about her. Even though everyone was looking at her, her gait was completely unflustered and even paced. It was as if she was used to all these and felt entitled to all the attention and admiration. When Xiao Yiren, who was greeting guests by the doorway, saw how classy and breathtaking Su Qinshuan looked, she clenched her fists tightly. She really wanted to take a knife and disfigure that SL*T without mercy. She could not understand why that little SL*T could still attract everyone's attention despite having fallen from grace. Worried, she looked at Xia Chushi, who was standing next to her. As expected, he, too, was captivated by that little SL*T. His gaze was fixed on Su Qinshuan. Su Mani's expression remained unchanged, but her gaze was extremely cold. I shouldn't have shown any mercy during our last meeting and allowed these 2 little B****stards to leave the mansion in one piece. Xiao Bonian's expression was surly as well. As expected, this girl would definitely give me some trouble. What on earth is she wearing? Su Mani tugged at her daughter gently, and only then did Xiao Yiren realize that she had lost her composure. Some of the women had been staring at her the entire time. She lowered her head in embarrassment. Qinshuan, you're here. Your father and I always worry about you. Now that you're home, you should stay with us from today onwards. This is your home after all. Su Mani always put on a front, for her own image was what she cared about the most. Even though she really wanted to throttle Su Qinshuan to death right now, she still flashed a bright smile, as if Su Qinshuan was her own daughter. Auntie, now that you and my father have started such a happy and loving family, I wouldn't dare disturb you. Su Qinshuan blinked her innocent eyes, appearing completely naive and harmless. A single statement from her reminded everyone around them that Su Mani was merely a homewrecker. On top of that, she had also seduced the husband of her adoptive older sister, whose family had raised her. Such a deed could very well be described as ungrateful and unscrupulous. No matter how well Su Manny could mask her emotions, she was slightly taken aback. What Su Qianxuan just said was a heavy slap across her face in front of everyone. "Sis, you're finally here. Thank you for attending our engagement ceremony. I apologize for the unpleasant incident that day. I know that I was in the wrong. I deserve to be hit by you. Ah, I shouldn't have mentioned this. Xiao Yiren must have inherited her talent in acting from Su Manny, like mother like daughter. Acting was what they did best." The moment Xiao Yiren said that, everyone probably jumped to the conclusion that Su Qianxuan had been brazenly bullying Xiao Yiren. "It's good that you know that you were in the wrong. Besides, this ceremony is to celebrate your engagement to my fiancé. Of course, I have to come and congratulate you in person." Env Su Qianxuan definitely would not let Xiao Yiren have her way. She could play the victim and beg for sympathy all she wanted, but Su Qianxuan had no obligation to play along. Xiao Yiren pretended like she was terribly shaken. She stumbled backward and fell into Xia Chushi's arms. Her tears trickled down her face like pearls from unstrung necklaces. "Chushi, I knew that my older sister wouldn't forgive me. But, I'm only doing this for the sake of our baby." Chapter 90. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 90. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. When Xia Chushi saw how aggrieved Xiao Yiren was, he remembered how her face was swollen after she was slapped by Su Qianxuan. Even after that, Xiao Yiren did not stop saying good things about Su Qianxuan because she was worried that Xia Chushi would seek revenge on her behalf. Xiao Yiren had always been so kind-hearted. On the contrary, Su Qianxuan was never willing to acknowledge her wrongdoings, as if she would never admit defeat to anyone. Xia Chushi stared at Su Qianxuan like he was staring at scum. "Come on, stop crying. I've loved you since the beginning. I was only engaged to her because I was forced to. Qianxuan, I know that you don't like my daughter and I. But, how could wear this to attend your younger sister's engagement ceremony? She snatched my fiancé away. Don't tell me that you people expect me to attend this engagement ceremony with a joyous heart. Aren't you people making things difficult for me? Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Come in now." Xiao Banian looked at the young woman, who was a distance away, with an icy gaze. Su Qianxuan no longer wanted to exchange nonsensical words with the members of the Qiao family either. She walked into the hall without looking at anyone. When she passed by Xia Chushi and Xiao Yiren, Xia Chushi felt a strange surge of fury in his chest when he looked at the nonchalant expression on her tiny face. A lot of guests were in attendance for the engagement ceremony that day, and most of them had been the Su family's good friends for generations. After Su Qianxuan entered the hall, she began to look for an opportunity to enter her grandfather's study to look for the item he had left behind for her. It was impossible for her to go up the stairs in the hall, as many of the guests in attendance knew her. Su Qianxuan planned to go to the bathroom and go up to the first floor using the servant's staircase before heading to her grandfather's study room. Just as Su Qianxuan was about to head to the bathroom, Xiao Bonian's voice rang out from behind. "Qianxuan, come over here for a while." It was obviously an undefiable order. Su Qianxuan turned and saw that Su Manny was holding on to Xiao Bonian's arm while they were walking towards her. There was a middle-aged man next to them. The man was clearly staring at Su Qianxuan, not even bothering to hide his astonishment and lust. Su Qianxuan stared expressionlessly at Xiao Bonian. "Anything. Let me introduce you to Chairman Li. Chairman Li, this is my daughter, Qianxuan. Miss Su, I've heard a lot about you." Chairman Li extended his hand for a handshake. Su Qianxuan stood expressionlessly without paying any heed to the man's extended hand. She gave Xiao Banian, her father, a deathly stare. Xiao Banian was rather embarrassed by Su Qianxuan's obvious glare. He tried his best to suppress his fury. Chairman Li is speaking to you, where are your manners? Hee, it's okay. Miss Su is a really straightforward person, and I admire that very much. Chairman Li almost could not avert his lewd gaze away from Su Qianxuan's body. He really did not expect Xiao Bonian to actually let such a beautiful daughter fall into his clutches just for the sake of one business deal. A distance away, Xia Chushi, who was with Xiao Yiren, kept observing the interaction between Xiao Bonian, Chairman Li, and Su Qianxuan. Xiao Yiren was totally infuriated by this, and she extended her hand to tug at Xia Chushi. Only then did Xia Chushi turn towards Xiao Yiren again. His gaze turned extremely profound. I'm sorry, but I really need to use the bathroom. I'll take my leave for now. Of course, Su Qianxuan knew what Xiao Bonian was up to. It was crystal clear, was it not? However, Su Qianxuan's already numb heart still ached at the notion. Xiao Bonian was, after all, her father, and once upon a time, he had also doted upon her as well as loved her. Xiao Bonian's face immediately darkened. Chairman Li, we've really spoilt this daughter of ours. Please don't take it to heart, Su Mani said with a smile. Of course not. Chairman Xiao, we must wrap up our deal today, all right. After Chairman Li said that, he fixed his gaze on Su Qianxuan who was walking towards the bathroom. There was determination in his gaze.